Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I am just so thrilled to be here in my hometown in conversation with the beautiful and talented Jenna Blum, who I'm so proud to also say is a very close friend of mine. And how lucky we are to be on the first week of Murder Your Darlings coming out. Your launch was just a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
She drove down and is staying with me, and we are so excited to talk about her new book. Jenna, why don't you give us a little, in your own words, a description about what Murder Your Darlings is about?
Okay, so how many of you have read the book so far? I know like a couple of you have. Okay, so the book is about a mid-career novelist named Sam Vetiver, who's just coming off tour for her fourth novel. Sales have been a little soft, and she is under contract to write her fifth novel, which she despises and is really blocked on. And she's also a year out of a divorce, so she's feeling really lonely and vulnerable. And as she's coming off this tour, she surprises herself by thinking, I would give all of this up if only I could have somebody to share my life with. And as if in answer to a wish, into her DMs slides stratospherically successful, incredibly sexy, super mega best-selling William Corwin, who's like David Baldacci, like James Patterson level, famous and successful, except all of his books feature female protagonists and each one is a different genre. So his nickname in the industry is the Virtuoso. So William is about to go on tour for a new book called All the Lambent Souls. And he invites Sam to dinner with him when he's in Boston, and she accepts, and then they start a romance. And as they do, bodies start to pile up around them, and Sam, who has a trauma background and doesn't really trust her own instincts, is forced to question, is William too good to be true? Or is what's happening caused by one of his numerous female stalkers, including a very determined stalker named the Rabbit, who is a bookseller? We know about you booksellers.
So there are three narrators, and they are told expertly by the beautiful Jenna Blum. Do you want to give a little bit more description of the Rabbit? I feel like we just, that you do write from her voice. I feel like she's such a fascinating, interesting character. Do you want to give a little bit more description than you already have, perhaps, about her?
Sure. Yeah, I can do this three of rabbit meat. Okay. I'll do like the three of them. So this book has three narrators, which is unusual for me, although I did it in my last novel. Now that I think about it, but two of them are first person, which I've never written in since grad school. And when I was in grad school, I got soundly spanked for it. And these two characters were a surprise to me. And one is the Rabbit, and the other is William. So they each get their own point of view in this story. I thought it was supposed to be just a book about Sam, who is basically me. Like, I'm not hiding this in any way. The things that happen in the book to Sam did not happen to me, but her entire writing life, her apartment, restaurants she goes to, her car, like all of it is her clothes, her red dresses. I usually wear my hair in a side braid. All of it is totally me, to the point at which, like, Hillary's like, I read part of the book, and isn't that your library in the book? And I was on a podcast one day, and the interviewer looked over my shoulder and said, isn't that Sam Vetiver's fireplace? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I put my apartment in the book. That's right, I forgot about it. So Sam is very much an me. So that explains Sam. She's in the third person. And I thought the book was going to be just Sam and her relationship with William, and then questioning herself and the treachery of her own perception. And then one day I was lying around feeling sorry for myself, like writers do. And I thought, what if the stalker in this book, because I knew that the Rabbit would be stalking Sam and William, I thought, what if she has her own perspective? Because she can give us information about William that nobody else has access to. And I got up and went to my computer and wrote the prologue of the book, which is unchanged. And it was like sticking my hands in a socket, because the Rabbit is so not me, basically. Like, she is from the wrong side of the tracks. She is really gritty. She's had a terribly traumatic background. All the main characters do. And she's somebody who often is overlooked because of how she looks. And so she is like invisible, and that's one of her superpowers, I think. And she really, really loves books. And when we meet her, we learn right away that she's a stalker. Like, she is also an authority in all things William Corwin.
Do you want to give a little background about William?
Sure. So William, I love William. I also loved writing William's section, and that was likewise a surprise. Once the rabbit bounced into the book, I'm like, oh, it's going to be Sam the rabbit, Sam the rabbit, Sam the rabbit, with the rabbit commenting on everything she sees Sam doing after we've just seen Sam doing it. Kind of like The Affair, if anybody's seen that show. So you get two perspectives on the same event. So I'm writing along, and then I got into part 2, and suddenly I thought, oh God, no. Like, William was like elbowing his way in, demanding to be heard also. And I called my editor and said, I have either a really great or terrible idea. Like, I want William to narrate the second section of the book, because William is great in many ways and also very sketchy where women are concerned. And I thought, if we see him doing his life from his perspective, we have a better idea of what Sam is participating in when she continues this relationship. And it kind of upped the dramatic stakes for everybody. My editor was like, yeah, great idea. That's fine, so do that. So I did, and I wrote William in like, I don't know, a few weeks, and it was like the most fun I've ever had writing fiction was writing William. He is a malignant narcissist, and I don't say this lightly, because these days we think everybody's a narcissist. Like, somebody is taking too long in the coffee line in front of you, you're like, just get the fucking latte already, narcissist. William is not that kind of narcissist. Like, he's a legit narcissist. And that was, the research I did for the book was about that. It's like, what goes into the making of a narcissistic personality? Can you change that person? Like, what are the behavior patterns? How do they interact with other people? And I find him so comic in a really scary way, because he has no idea as he moves through the world how he's being perceived, because his whole world is William. He's very smart and very sexy, though.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. But he has a lot of charm and a great vocabulary.
Yeah, nobody here knows anybody like that. Nobody knows a charismatic, smart, sexy person who like makes you feel like you're the center of the whole world, but is skeevy.
Right. It's great real estate, too.
And great real estate, yeah, right, and a great vocab, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so now that you know the cast of players, in the words of this, wonderful author, do you want to give us a taste of, so you can hear in her beautiful language, a scene or something, to give us a taste of Murder Your Darlings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to poll you guys and see what you want me to read. I read the prologue the other night in Boston. It is very spicy. It is like 8 chili pepper spicy, like voyeuristic, scary spicy. Or I can read something that is a little less spicy, but still a little scary. So I don't know.
I go for spicy.
Yeah.
Sounds fine to me.
We all got to stay warm. It's January, right? I might as well read something spicy. All right, I'll prologue on. All right, I'll try not to make it like too long. I'm going to cut it a little bit. So. Okay. So this is the rabbit. So we hear from the rabbit first, and it's called Prologue, the Rabbit. The problem with this house is it's in a very remote area, so it's hard to get to, especially now in winter. I don't do well on snowshoes, and I never learned to cross-country ski. It's challenging enough to keep on top of the weather and to make sure my tracks are covered. I could go when he's not home, but what would be the point of that? William's house is on an island in rural Maine, the only one there. He built it after his first monster bestseller, You Never Said Goodbye, craving more solitude to write, according to the New York Magazine profile, The Virtuoso Retreats. The real reason is one day he stepped out of his shower in his Martha's Vineyard mansion to find a reader standing on his bath mat with a pen and a suitcase full of his books. He's been off the grid ever since. William's Island is accessible only by causeway, blocked at the end by a gate 12 feet tall with iron spikes like the kind you put a head on, although the only things that have ever been impaled there are gifts really dedicated superfans leave if they somehow figure out where he is. Over the years, I've seen stuffed animals. Why? There are none in his books. Letters with porny selfies, bras and thongs that flap in the wind like flags. The gate is basically a bulletin board of unrequited William Corwin love. He takes everything down and tosses it in the trash, and nobody ever gets in, except me. The house is an A-frame, like a ski chalet with 360-degree views of the lake. It has a hot tub, a 2-story fieldstone fireplace, and skylights, and specially built bookshelves, all full. Of course they are. It's a beautiful house. Of course it is. He has good taste and he has to spend all those royalties on something. Plus his foreign rights. William Corwin is published in 47 countries, his website proclaims, and his film money for Medusa. A thread on his Goodreads page says there's also an option on his second bestseller, The Space Between Worlds, although that movie never came out. Or maybe it just never got made. I don't know how these things work. I'm not a Hollywood type of person, but the authors I follow online complain a lot about how most options never materialize. They're only fantasies. Brain fucks. This is where you can grab your pearls if anybody needs pearls to grab. I bought pearls for you to clutch if anybody needs them. They're up here in case you need emotional support, pearls. It seems like a lot of griping about getting money for nothing, like being mad about a Christmas bonus you didn't expect but still is not big enough. But what do I know? I'm just a bookseller, author adjacent, and probably it is disappointing to have your hopes raised and have nothing come of it. I do know a lot about that. Another thing I know there's more than a brain fuck going on in that house right now because I can hear it. I can hear her. You'd have to be dead not to hear her. I can hear him too if I listen closely. It's harder because mostly he just talks. He talks while he's stripping their clothes off, while he's stroking and pinching them, while he's teasing them, while he's banging them as hard as he can. And because his talking is much lower volume than the girls moaning, yelling, screaming, and hollering, I have to get right up next to the house to read it. Hear it, sorry. No, nobody wants to read that. Like I am now, hunkered down between his hedge and the wall between the bedroom window, the branches scratching one side of my face and the glass cold against the other. The ground is freezing, too. My feet are numb, even in my good lined boots. There's more snow forecast for tonight, and they will nap when they're done, giving me time to either sneak inside to my observation post or steal away. During the day, William is a big napper, conking out whether he's alone or with somebody else, and he falls asleep within 3 breaths. I've never seen anything like it. 1 second he's awake, the next he's snoring, which he does like a cartoon character with a whistling sound, like he's blowing a feather that rises and falls with the air from his lips. It is the cutest thing I've ever seen, to tell the truth. Unexpected in such a big guy. It's adorable, actually. It might have been the first thing I fell in love with. Right now, they are not sleeping. Nowhere close to it. You're an angel, honey, I hear him say, his voice even deeper than usual with concentration. Do you know how beautiful you are right now? You're incandescent. Sorry, William Cracksnip, he's so awful. Oh, the woman says, which is probably all she's capable of saying at this moment. Like most of his women, she's shouting it loud enough that when he started driving into her, she drove all the birds from the trees. Luminous, he says, radiant and so close, I can feel it. Do you want me to finish you off? Oh, the woman says, oh, yes. She's practically sobbing. I know what comes next. His patented move, the fucking narrative, literally. For William Corwin, the climax of the story isn't just for fiction. Buckle up, he says, and now his own voice is a little more breathy. I remember what this all feels like, how he said to me, smiling and swiveling his hips, I knew how avid you'd be. I could tell just looking at you. You're going to do it for me, he says, practically growling. It's right there. You feel it building. It's inevitable. It's exquisite. You're trembling on the edge. I don't know how, whether it's the timbre of his voice or the power of storytelling, but the fucking narrative always works. It did on me, in ways I can still feel in my body sometimes. Before he reaches the end of his monologue, they climax, and this one does it more than once, by the sound of it. Between you're doing it, do it for me, and you're doing it now, she makes a coyote wail and then a yip, yip, yip noise that startles the crows, who have resettled into the branches and start cawing in rusty cacophony, a whole murder of them. Then it's over and I can't hear what they're saying, only murmurs. Next will come nappy time. It'll be dark soon and I have a choice to make about whether to drive home or slip inside. Through the basement window he's forgotten about, which leads to a root cellar William has never used, not being a store onions kind of guy, and that I can ease open and just, if I hold my breath like a motherfucker, squeeze through. I must have made some noise or shifted my feet in the crunching dead leaves to bring the blood back into them because I hear the woman say, "What was that?" She must be standing by the window because her voice is much closer now. I thought I heard something outside, she says. Probably a deer, he says, coming to stand beside or behind her. I know he is naked, looking out. A fine figure of a man is how the 19th century novelists would describe him, and they would not be wrong. Tall, dark, and handsome as a cliche, with those show-off silver streaks in his hair, I suspect he dyes, although I've never caught him doing it or even found the coloring kit in his bathroom wastebasket. Lumberjack thick, more than he used to be since he shredded his meniscus on something called a double black diamond trail, according to his Reddit readers on r/William Corwin athlete. He's not an Iron Man anymore, much to his displeasure, and if he's not careful, he gets chonky fast. But he's always careful. You probably scared away all the animals, he adds, with your climactic aria. She laughs, which you made me sing. You're the best I ever had. They all say this. I roll my eyes. Seriously, you're like a magnificent stag or something. And this woman calls herself a writer? I pantomime, barfing into the bushes. How are you feeling? She asks. There's a pause, and then he says, you're dear to ask, but I'm fine. Your heart, though, you're a little red. Do you need to take something? I smile. Some men don't mind women fussing over them. William Corwin is not one of them. Sure enough, though his tone is mild, I can hear his irritation when he says, dear, don't manage me, please. Oh, sure, sorry, she says, swiftly backtracking. I didn't mean to overstep. Bad old habit. A spanking for every backslide, he says, playful again, or backside. There's a light slap then. Feel how fine I am. Jesus, you could hang a dozen coats on that thing. Heavy winter ones. That's what you do to me, he says, his voice gruff. But in front of the window? There's nobody here for miles. I could screw you on the lawn and only the eagles would see. In case you haven't noticed, I live in the equivalent of a castle with a moat. Let's maybe save lawn screening for summer, she suggests, and I hear the tentative hope in her voice, testing their potential future. That and my lake dock, he says. Meanwhile, put your hands on the sill. As they start up again, this woman is different, no nap for him today. I contemplate slipping into the basement and up the stairs. Past his study, the hollowed space so many of his fans would give their left tit to see, as one said on Instagram. They would be disappointed if they were expecting a squirrel's cave of creativity, a mess of papers and books and pens, evidence of genius and progress, because the study is just a bare, empty room with a lamp and a desk and one very password-protected laptop. But I decide I've heard enough for one day. I'm cold and I'm sad, and I have to figure out what to do about this one, this woman. What I did with the other women obviously wasn't enough. Her cries follow me back through the trees of his property, out past the gate and rocks onto the causeway, which I'll follow down to the logging road where I hide my car. They sound like someone in pain. You asked for the spice. You got the spice. I gotta take my jacket off now.
Okay, that was wonderful. I always love hearing you read because your prose is so crackling and good.
Thanks, Allie. Allie read that at my house like ages ago, even before it was a galley or anything, and she was like, oh my God.
I was so excited. So tell us about how you became inspired to write a thriller. I mean, you've written historical fiction for the most part in your entire career. I mean, Woodrow on the Bench obviously was partial memoir and very, emotional and affecting. What made you want to write a thriller all of a sudden?
Yeah, I never actually aspired to write a thriller, and I always told people I don't read mysteries and thrillers because I can't keep the clues straight. Like, at best I get 3/4 of the way through, and then I think, well, like, yeah, if you say so, I guess. And then I keep reading because I like the voice and the characters. But once I started working on this, I realized that actually I have read a lot of psychological suspense. Like, I grew up reading Stephen King, who I love, like the early stuff, not the super bloated stuff that he puts out now, that I still buy anyway. But I love Stephen King. I love things like Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I love The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. And I read The Plot by Jean Ham Korelitz, and that kind of gave me the courage to start working on this book. And I will tell you that when I was thinking about Darlings, I was working on historical fiction that my editor loved and my agent loved, and my editor's like, just get me 50 pages and I'll put you under contract. And I kept working on it, and every scene was so wooden. that I would finish writing the scene and I would back out of it and think, what did the character want in that scene again? Like, what was the point exactly? And meanwhile, this idea about the murderous writers is like sneaking up the back steps, pushing my historical fiction out of the way, pushing her down the basement stairs, locking the door, throwing the key into the sewer, but I still was feeling a little bit like it was cheating somehow because it's about writers and the writing life, and I'm like, am I allowed to do that? It seems sort of cannibalistic. And then when I read the plot about Jean Hamp Corlitz, which is about somebody stealing the plot of the book, and was so smart and so funny about publishing, I thought, hey, wait a minute, if Jean can write this, I can write this. So I called her, I stalked her, like I got her number from a friend and called her out of the blue and said, did you get pushback when you went from writing literary fiction to writing thrillers? And she said, I just write what I want and other people market it, and you should write what you want. So then I started working on this. And as I said, I thought of it at first as just being Sam and her life in publishing, her life in writing, and then her relationship with William and how treacherous that would seem, and then it sort of built out with the other two characters.
I mean, when I think about writing historical fiction, so much is also about observation and creating a world, and the tension of the history that's unfolding through the narrator's lens, and you use all of those tools when you're writing your beautiful literary historical, not historical, but your literary thriller. And I particularly, as a writer, I thought you were so spot on about the literary landscape and the inside the walls of the publishing house, the editor, the young publicist, all that. It's super fun and it's really like razor sharp. So I just love that. And I think readers are going to get, like, it's behind the scenes to be able to, you're really getting sort of this, inner world that we deal with all the time. I think it's really new and illuminating to the audience that is not in publishing, right?
I think so. I mean, you guys tell me. I really loved unpacking my life for this book. And people sometimes say, was it harder to write a thriller than to write historical? I'm like, no, it was so much easier for that reason, because with historical fiction, I do like 10 years of research for every book to sort of make sure that I'm getting all the facts right before I step onto them, like on top of them to tell the story. And this one, like, all I did, how Hemingway said, I sit down and open a vein. I just sat down and unpacked my life. I've been a career writer since I was 16, so it was just a joy to be able to share with readers what it's really like to be a writer, from writing workshop to going to the publishing house. My agent and editor are in this book verbatim. Like, I just changed their names and that's it. But my French agent, whose name is Stephanie, is in this book as Mireille, and my editor's name is Patricia, but she looks like she looks, and they talk like they talk, and the publishing house is exactly what HarperCollins is like, and the young publicist. But there's also a lot about creative process too, and the uneasy and often difficult intersection of art and financial survival, I guess I would say, or art and business, because it's hard when you need to download a book and you want to make it the best it can be, but you're under contract and your book is due in 5 months. And when we meet Sam, she's on this kind of treadmill where she's been putting out books that are historicals, the sharecropper's wife and the sodbuster's daughter, and everybody's something else. And she is frustrated with the track, and her readers are getting a little frustrated with her sort of reheating her leftovers too. So it's a tough thing.
So what do you think was the hardest thing to write in this book? Like, what was the most challenging part of it?
Nothing.
Okay.
Oh my God, nothing. I never had so much fun writing a book in my life, honestly. Like, you might hate me for saying that, but it's great. It's so good. Like, a lot of the time, I think the plot is the hardest for a lot of writers, and it is for me writing historical fiction. You have to adhere to a historical backbone, but you still have to make up the story. And I made up the story of Darlings, obviously, but a thriller gives you marks to hit, like you're an actor on a stage and you have to stand on those marks. Like, there have to be, oh my God, that's my alarm also. I was like, oh my God, my alarm's going off. Why? You have to hit those marks, and readers expect to find a dead body around, every corner, and they expect a twist in every act, and they expect the end of the book to be something that they don't see coming. And the joy, I think, of being somebody who reads thrillers, and now I read a lot of thrillers, is you're pitting your own brain against the authors. So you're like, I know this is a riddle, I know it's kind of a puzzle, I want to solve this plot, the who did it, why did it, and if you are are right, then you can feel kind of vindicated, but if you see it coming too early, you feel cheated. So I had to invent a plot that was clever enough that hopefully, people would not see the end coming. And the marks enabled me to do that, like hitting those marks.
How do you learn those marks? Like, I mean, because we're, for the most part, self-taught, like when it's intuitive. So did you actually analyze different thrillers and like, oh, in the third act, this has to happen? Like there are, I mean, because we don't do that at least I don't.
No, I don't do that in historical or
fiction,
literary fiction, which is much more free form. It's like jazz, like
Right.
this is much more of a set piece, I think. I read a lot and watched a lot of thrillers. I also realized I watch a lot of Lifetime movie network.
So do I.
Yeah, like I grew up
every
right,
weekend.
all those Docker stories, and my mom and I watched it together, and I was like, if I hadn't been reading thrillers, then I had been watching them like endlessly, like feeding myself with the Lifetime movie network. So I kind of knew that there had to be like jump scares and twists, and you get a sense of the pacing of it. But I think mostly I felt sort of self-explanatory that I always write in 3-act structure anyway, and so like the end of every act of a thriller has to be some terrible surprise. And it's not that different from writing good literary fiction, where you want a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter because you want your reader to be hooked and to keep reading. It just is a slightly different pacing and
But I'm
expectation.
thinking about your work, Lost Family. Yeah, definitely the 3 acts are very, organized that way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very
I'm learning so
solid, right?
much listening to you. I'm so excited to be in conversation about this. So do you think there's like a message to the book? Do you think that there's something that you want readers to come away with? I'm curious about that.
That's a great question. So one thing I haven't touched on, we've talked about Sam and William and the rabbit and the publishing industry, and those things to me are sort of joyous and funny, and I hope people laugh reading this book, because I laughed every single day when I sat down to write it, which is why it wasn't hard to write, because it amused me greatly. So I hope it amuses you. But at the heart of the book, there's a message about codependency, because what happens to Sam, who is a recovering codependent, which is not really a thing. Like when you're addicted to a behavior pattern, you're always in recovery. Sam is somebody who will put her life on hold for her relationship with William, and she's in a recovery group for codependents where they're supposed to like go in and tell on themselves essentially and be like, this is, I want to keep my mind on my own business, but I can't help caretaking somebody else or trying to become what this person wants me to be. And in the opening chapter of the book, Sam is so lonely on tour that she does literally think, I would give this all up if I had somebody to share my life with. And then William comes into her life and builds these beautiful future castles for her. And she really puts her identity on hold very much she kind of barters herself away to be in this relationship. And when William starts to behave badly, she doubles down. And I don't know if you have been this way. I certainly have in some relationships, or people who are like this, and you want to shake them and say, snap out of it, this guy is not good for you. He ran over your cat and you're still giving him money. Why? That's the kind of bind Sam is in. And so the book raises the question, like, why are people like this, and what are the extremes that can happen, and then how do you step out of that pattern?
And what's next for Jenna Blum? Are you think you're going to start, stay in the thriller lane? Do you think, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do want to stay in this lane. I like it here. It's funny. I also think that, again, like the historical fiction or the literary fiction shares a lot with writing thrillers. Like, you want a good story well told no matter what. And you want the language to be as crisp as it can be, and you want the reader not to be able to put the book down because of the plot. You want characters who feel real, so we all aspire to that. But I realized, and you probably know this about me, but I didn't think of this till the other day, I'm like, my personality is so well suited for writing thrillers, because even my literary historical stuff has sex and death in it. This is just wearing different clothes. But also, like the other day, I was walking my dog. It was this beautiful day, and I was like, I hope there are no rats around here. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so you. And like, there's something around every corner that's going to jump out and like scare you in some way. I'm like driving down the street and it's perfectly nice out. I'm like, somebody's going to come hit my car. And I had this sort of like doomy bias, and I thought, why not just harness it and put it to work? And I think you do that in thrillers, like the Lifetime Movie Network thing. Like, there's never like a good person in those. Like, there's so I feel like that kind of bias works really well for you in a thriller, that you can take your sort of doomy bias and really make it work in a scary way. So I'm excited to write more thrillers.
Well, I have a confession. This is the first thriller I have ever read.
Oh my
Wow.
God! Thank
Wow.
you.
So I was so happy that my first was with you, Jenna. And I appreciate it also because the language is still like razor sharp and really well written. So it's like a literary thriller. It's, you know, it's not, you know, something that, I mean, I don't want to demean any other authors, but like, you know, it's a high bar, like the writing. It's really beautiful. And I love that there were so many scenes that I could see instantly. Like you create such a rich world. It is funny, it's twisty, it's sexy, it hits all those marks. So I think it's the perfect read for January.
Thank you.